For every reason, life is the reason. Bec Jones is the reason. The ParaMatildas have recently returned from Spain with a 6-2 victory against the United States, and Bec Jones is part of the first ever Australian football team to win a World Cup. Bec is part of changing the face of football and women's sport in Australia. And she has achieved this after having gone through autoimmune encephalitis 4 years ago, and then a stroke on top of that. Going through 12 months of trying to get a diagnosis, facing all the side effects of medication, and still having to maintain recovery, she is not giving up, and went to Spain to prove it. What saved her is plasma. It was the day that she knew she was going to survive. Check your eligibility to donate. And let's get to it, yeah? Listen in with me to learn exactly what Bec has been through and why such a little thing, 90 minutes sitting in the chair at the Australia Red Cross Lifeblood, can mean so much to others. Bec, thank you so much for joining me. World champion. Are you still getting used to being called a world champion?
Yeah, I don't think it's something I'll get used to too quick. It's been a pretty cool experience to come back to Australia and have conversations with people, and definitely not something I was expecting.
Playing for the ParaMatildas in the World Cup in Spain. And what was the victory win?
6-2.
6-2. And you guys were down 2-0 against the USA.
Yes.
That is wild.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about the experience?
Well, definitely in that final, I was sitting on the sideline for the first while, and 2-0 down in the first 6 minutes was brutal. Certainly sitting on the side when you can't do anything with the scoreline, you're just watching and thinking, come on girls. And then they came on, and definitely Caitlin getting a hat trick was impressive from the goals, and managed to pull it home in the end 6-2, which was amazing considering the USA beat ParaMatildas 4-2 at the last World Cup. So very good to turn that around.
Yes. And well, speaking of hat tricks, you got your own, right? Against Japan.
I did.
Upon your debut with the ParaMatildas.
Yes. Yes, that was a very good day.
Yes.
Definitely exciting. I got the goals in the back of the net, but it was the team play that we had leading up to the goals that was super exciting, because there were just a lot of passes that kind of drew together that made it really good play. So finishing them to make it a complete team play to get those goals in was super exciting.
Yes. But then again, the one that you did score within 11 seconds of being on the field.
that was good fun, yes. But it come straight out from Caitlin, and it touched nearly all the girls on the team before I got it in. So.
Fair go. Well, so how did it all come together? So trying out for the team and then training together, how did that all work out for you?
So my time with ParaMatildas started just under 2 years. So I was looking to get back into soccer, and I found Canberra had an all abilities team. So I sent the coach a message, and the coach happened to be the coach of the ParaMatildas as well. So she was like, can you send me a few videos of you playing? And so I got Mum to come down to the Oval and take some videos, and sent them through to her, and she was like, you know what, would you like to come to the next camp? And I was like, of course. So that was January or February 2023. Went along, best experience. It's not many places you get to meet young women who have similar impairments as you, and so to have, I think there might have been 14 at that camp, girls with very similar impairments, it's pretty special to be a part of. And you feel a lot more comfortable in your own body and yourself around them, because you're a lot less self-conscious. So that was pretty special. And from there, just kind of kept going, kept working, joined a team in Canberra so I could keep training, because with the ParaMatildas you meet up about every 3 months for a training camp. So there's a lot of time in between that you have to work on your skills and your fitness yourself, and then you meet up together and work on the gameplay, which is, I love those camps a lot. They're really good fun. And so the trials for the World Cup happened over the camp. So the camps are when the coaches can look at how you're playing and see what you're at, and they make the decision after the final camp before you go away. And so I was actually injured for that camp, and so I thought my chances were quite low. So I got that call from the coach, definitely expecting bad news, and then she told me I was selected, and I did not believe it. I really didn't, because I'd kind of grieved the thought of being able to go, because I'd coming off injury. I just thought, you know what, like, the chances are really low. And so getting that call, it was so exciting. And I didn't believe it until I was actually on that plane to Spain. I didn't think it was going to happen. And so, that was my trajectory into the team.
Mm-hmm. Well, how was it playing with all these other girls? Do you get to learn each other's stories and their experiences and what brought them to being part of the team?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, because so all the girls do have similar impairments in terms of how it affects them neurologically with ball skills, but at the same time everyone's super different. We all have different strengths, abilities. Some of us can use both sides, some of us can't, some of our arms are affected, some of ours aren't. And so you kind of learn each other's strengths as you get to know each other more and when you play. But yeah, at the same time, you also do get to learn about their stories. Like, they're definitely some very close friends of mine, and just getting to know them over the last couple of years has been really special. The team that went to the World Cup, everyone besides me was born with their disability or acquired quite young, so cerebral palsy. So quite different experiences, I guess, in terms of time with football as their sport. As I grew up playing able-bodied, and they've all grown up with their disability, so it's very different experiences in terms of that. But at the same time, we all are learning to make the most of our bodies in the way that they work, and being able to maximize the abilities we have despite our impairments is super exciting.
Mm-hmm. Well, would you be comfortable sharing with me what you did go through to bring you to being part of the ParaMatildas?
Of course. So the ParaMatildas is a team based on 3 kind of categories of disabilities. So it's all neurological impairments based on cerebral palsy, acquired brain injury, or symptoms from stroke. And so my experience with brain injury started over 4 years now, when I first got sick. Seems crazy to say. It feels like only yesterday I was saying it was a year ago. But yeah, so halfway through 2020, I got quite unwell with a range of symptoms, but just none that the doctors were able to fully pinpoint into a specific diagnosis. So for about 12 months, I spent a lot of that in hospital with various treatments, various diagnoses, but nothing was working, and I was just getting more and more sick.
What sort of symptoms?
So everything from seizures, memory loss, cognition loss, vision loss, balance issues, to things like psychosis and completely not knowing who I was anymore, not recognizing myself in the mirror, just basically losing every sense of myself. And the brain controls everything, so everything was affected to my autonomic nervous system, so my blood pressure, my heart rate control. I was losing all of that. Catatonia, all like everything really was affected.
And were these consistent things that you suffered, or was it just maybe 1 week things were a little bit off and then you would recover and then something else would bring you down and then you'd recover?
A lot of it was very consistent, but escalating over the year. So it first started, so for example, I might have had 1 seizure in a week, and then at one point I was having multiple a day. At that point, I think I was a month in a neuro ward, and I was having many seizures a day, like countless, that it got to the point where it was basically nothing could control it. It was just relentless with that. And then I would have some form of improvement in terms of the seizures, but other symptoms would get worse. And so I completely lost all function in life. I'd lost contact with friends. I had completely had to drop out of uni. I couldn't do anything for myself. And so most of that year was in hospital. By June the next year, so I first got sick, it was actually after I had my wisdom teeth taken out. So I got sick with Ross River fever earlier in the year. And from that, I kind of developed post-viral fatigue. So it was just a lot of fatigue and headaches and some flu-like symptoms to begin with. But then in June, I had my wisdom teeth out, and from that moment, it felt like something changed in my brain. And looking back through my medical notes before I was diagnosed properly, I can see that I had said things like, it feels like something's changed in my brain feels like it's on fire, and those sort of comments that were seemingly ignored by the doctors at the time, and which is really frustrating to look back on. But it's thought that the inflammation that I had from the swelling in my mouth when the teeth were removed then went and crossed the blood-brain barrier, and kind of the virus that I had within me from the Ross River fever accumulated to cause what I have, which is autoimmune encephalitis. So basically it triggered my immune system to start attacking my healthy brain cells. And since the brain controls everything has been affected. So once I got that diagnosis, so that was June 2021 that I finally received that diagnosis, and I started immunotherapy. So I started on getting pulse steroids, so really high dose steroids to treat the inflammation in my brain, and then something called plasmapheresis, where they circulate all your blood out and filter out all your plasma and discard it and put in donated plasma. So the plasma holds the antibodies which attack your brain. So definitely an odd experience seeing all your blood come out of you into the machine next to you. But so I had 5 days worth of cycles of that, which is terrible. A terrible experience, but it seemingly worked in the end, because then the next day I got my first infusion of IVIG, which is made from plasma infusions, and they made from plasma donations, and they take all the healthy antibodies from donors and collect it from between normally 100 and 1,000 donations of plasma, and take the antibodies and put it into via infusion. And after that, basically all the symptoms went away. It was genuinely indescribable, the difference it made, and I am forever and will forever be grateful for plasma donors, because it absolutely saved my life. But that I was getting through a central line that went into my chest, so basically a cannula, but they put it directly to through your chest and to the entry of your heart, and air got into that by accident and caused air to go through my heart and to my brain and blocked blood flow to my brain in both sides of my brain and my cerebellum, which was my strokes which happened. So that affected my movement, mostly my left side, balance, vision. It's hard to then just differentiate between the other symptoms, which brain injury caused it. But so that's where I got my stroke, so the stroke is, I guess, the main factor for ending up in the ParaMatildas, because that's where my mobility issues have stemmed from, where the encephalitis has also affected balance. And so I've got the ABI and the stroke side of the ParaMatildas.
Thank you for taking me through all of that. That was just a long journey. But hello, plasma.
Yes, hello, plasma.
So a big call out to people to be donating plasma so that wonderful people like Bec can be playing on the football pitch.
Absolutely. Absolutely saved my life. I cannot thank you enough. And that was a very complicated explanation, but I think the main part of that was the plasma donors.
Yeah.
I still refer to that day as the best day of my life, because the encephalitis symptoms hugely lifted. I'm still left with a lot of ongoing health challenges from it, but the worst parts were all gone on that day. Mm-hmm. And so even though I had the stroke, that's dealing with getting movement from my body back is a challenge, and it affects a lot of my life, but getting my brain back made all the difference.
Oh, I appreciate that. You got your brain back.
I got my brain back.
But it did paralyze. Is it the left side of your body?
Left side, yeah.
Okay.
Left hemiparesis.
Mm-hmm.
My arm and leg were initially affected, but my arm to a much less degree. So my leg was fully paralyzed and I couldn't feel it at all. My arm was just weak. And I still don't have great fine motor skills on my right hand and a little bit of weakness, but it's more my left leg that's more affected. But I was initially in a wheelchair for about 6 months and then back to walking and then running, and I can row, I can play soccer, I can...
Yeah. Because you designed a brace to support you to be able to get through this? How did that come about? How did you just decide to take on this mission to build yourself a brace?
Frustration. Definitely. The world is not accessible. Being in a wheelchair is really, really hard, and I had one functioning leg, and I was just frustrated by the fact that I had one leg that fully worked, and I had another leg that I was getting some movement back in, just not enough to be able to walk. And I was seeing physios, and at the time, and we tried some different braces and aids, but nothing was really helping to an extent that I could get around realistically without a wheelchair. But I've always had a really creative mind, and I can just see things and think, oh, that's not right. I need to work through that, because I knew that I should be able to walk. I knew that I had strength in some muscles, and so yeah, it was just out of pure frustration that I started picking things up around the house. And I think my first one started with leads from my dog car seatbelts, a strap from my guitar case, and therotubing from a weight set at home. And yeah, I kind of was playing with that, and it probably developed over a month into my first proper design that I could get around with. Started with like 5 minutes of wearing it, building up over the year to be able to wear it for a whole day. Yeah, but that's where it started from.
Which number are we up to at the moment?
So this is still very much the same design that I initially had, but as each section kind of degrades a little bit, I'll try and make it a little bit better. But we have advanced from the dog leads for my waist belt into a proper lumbar back, which has helped the comfort level, so that's a step forward.
And will you be able to one day not have to make use of the brace?
I would love to say yes, and hopefully I can say yes one day. At the moment, not sure. It's been 3.5 years now since the stroke, so I can say yes optimistically, but we'll wait and see.
Yes, love the optimism. So is it pain that prohibits you, or is it physical limitations? Or
Yeah, so just like, it's not pain, it's purely my brain can't switch on those muscles. It's really hard to describe, but I guess just an absolute weakness, like you just can't make the thoughts move to the muscles you want, which it's very odd, because growing up for 20 years of my life, I had a leg that responded to when my brain told it to move, and now it doesn't. So I look at my leg, so I've got complete foot drop, so I can't lift up my ankle at all. And so I'll just stare at my foot and be like, oh, come on, lift up, but it won't. Maybe one day it will, but no, thankfully no nerve pain anymore. It did initially, but now it's fine. It's also just the issue with muscles will turn on when I don't want them to turn on. So if I just want my hamstring to turn on, the quad will also turn on. So it means that instead of the knee bending, the knee will just straight. So it does the opposite. Yeah, so it's a bit complicated.
Well, it's evidently your fierce determination that helped get you through this, right? Because you wanted to get back in the boat, you wanted to get back on the pitch and those sorts of things. That's really, really strong, and that's really, really healthy. And did you recognize this as you were going through it? Did it come to really bad stages, and did you just know that you had to fight to get through it in that way?
I think with the encephalitis, it took absolute rock bottom. Like, there wasn't much lower I could get to there. And I remember when I first saw the immunologist for the immunotherapy treatment, he said, oh, do you want to start with a more less intense version that's less risky, because it can be quite risky. I'm very immunosuppressed. I can get bad infections easily. Or do you want to just go full send on the treatment and see what happens? And I basically said I have literally nothing to lose. I have no life. I have nothing. If there's a chance that going like completely in with the immunotherapy will make any difference, I will completely do it. And yeah, I credit that doctor for saving my life, because the treatment did work, and he was an absolute savior in terms of thinking outside the box in terms of what could have been causing my symptoms, and found what was wrong, which was amazing. And so I think living through that experience and having completely lost my brain and then having it back, I realized how grateful I was to have the ability to exist as a human, really. And I just wanted to make the most of it. And so each day I just wake up thankful that I'm still here, because I very well could have not been, and I just want to make the most of it. So yeah.
Was it a struggle to get out socially again?
It's definitely been challenging, because a lot of the disability I have is hidden, so you often can't see. Like, there's a lot of fatigue, sensory overload. I really struggle with loud noises and crowds, and memory issues. Definitely when I was first coming out and I was trying to remember just learning people's names, and I lost a lot of childhood memory, and there's a lot in my brain that has changed. Just purely the brain injury affects a lot of things that you can't see. And so it was hard getting back out socially, and it was also a really challenging time of life. I have said that if I was going to get sick like this at any point, it was probably the best time, because it was during COVID years. So no one else was moving on with their lives. Everyone was kind of shut down. I wasn't really missing out socially. So it was the best time it could have happened in reality. And it was also the time I just left school. I was at my first year of uni, and so it was an interesting time where all school friends were sort of dispersing out, and I'd just moved to Canberra from Sydney, and I'd just started making new friends, but those friendships were still quite new, and it wasn't like I hadn't been friends with them long enough to form a strong enough friendship with most of them to withhold through a year of being really unwell and in hospital. And so I lost a lot of those initial friendships I made, and then I lost a lot of school friendships, which it felt like a natural course. Like, if I couldn't keep in contact with them, I don't expect them to keep in contact with me, and everyone goes their own way after school. So I think when I came back to uni, so I made back in 2022, so just over 6 months post-stroke, and I remember writing my New Year's resolution list for that year, and it was to make a new friend. And so when I came back to college and started meeting people, I just remember just feeling so happy that I had this back, I had this life back, and I had the ability to meet new people and make new friends, and I was really grateful for that.
Did you still have were you that kind of person who could have the courage to easily go out and make friends, or was it sort of you having to put yourself out there even more so?
I would say it was definitely a mix. I think things like falling back into the rowing community made a huge difference, because such an amazing community in sports, and so having that, I also went back to college, so that's sort of forced social interaction, like you have meals in a dining hall together, so things like that definitely helped. But when I first came back to college, I was in a wheelchair, and that was quite a really eye-opening experience, because I did O Week in the first part of my first year in 2020 before COVID shut everything down, and then I was basically doing first year again in 2022, but this time in a wheelchair, whereas previously I'd been completely able-bodied, and just the differences in experience was quite dramatic in terms of who talks to you or who will interact with you and how people speak, and a lot of people don't know how to talk to you, which it's interesting because you're just sitting down. But at the same time, you realize there's not you don't see it often growing up unless you're around it. And so people don't want to say the wrong thing, which is fair enough. But I think when you're living it, you realize that often being worried of saying the wrong thing and therefore saying nothing is worse than saying the wrong thing and learning from it, but getting to meet people. And so that's definitely something I've learned. But it was, I think the forced interactions and then finding good communities that really helped.
Mm-hmm. No, that's amazing. Yeah. Had you always intended to be studying in the medical fields?
So growing up, I always wanted to do vet science, and then I wanted to do rural vet medicine, and then I realized the brutality of it and I got a bit worried. So I was thinking I'll probably go into the healthcare field. I didn't know exactly where, so I started at ANU in 2020 doing medical science and psychology double degree, and then I came back and migrated into a health science, which was a medicine pathway, which is where I've landed into going into med, which is the current plan, but it may change over the next year. We'll see.
Well, have your experiences influenced this decision?
They've definitely made me think about it a lot. I've realized the absolute privilege it is to have someone trust you with their life. And I've also realized the responsibility that is. So I think thinking that through is really important to make sure I am confident enough in myself that I know I can take on that role, because it is a huge role to take on. And then there's also the thoughts regarding, I received a lot of mistreatment and medical negligence and I guess medical abuse, you could say, within the system. And I've seen how horrific the system is. And I want to be a part of that to stop other people. Like, I want to make sure that any patients that I have don't feel how I felt during the system and feel respected by their practitioner. And then at the same time, I will have to make sure that my experiences don't affect how I treat patients or how I treat other practitioners in any way, just because I've met a lot of practitioners who I've lost a lot of respect for. And as someone who would be working with them, I'd have to make a way to make that work, which is, interestingly, I've always wanted to work rurally, but I keep thinking that rural med would be even more perfect because it would be less with other practitioners. So I joke about that sometimes. Yeah.
But then, studies aside, will you continue with the ParaMatildas? You'll be continue with camps to train?
The hope is yes. I will also have to be listening to my body, because injury-wise, the soccer has not been too kind on my body. Had hip stress fracture, then I had a concussion, a couple of broken ribs with surgery, then a tibia stressy, and then a tibia and fibula stressy in the last 18 months. So my body has not been too happy. And so rowing might be the go-to for now, whilst I properly let all my bones heal. And then I think it'll be more focusing on building back up, because I did jump back in from just starting running to getting into soccer, and when my biomechanics are still getting used to having a different body, injury risk is heaps higher. And so I think over time, as my body gets more used to having one stronger leg than the other and my bones get a bit stronger, then hopefully I'll be able to get more into the soccer in terms of more training sessions a week. But at the moment, I think it's back to building strength and spending time rowing, which I love.
I'm a big fan of that. But to finish off, still be riding on this world champion in my presence kind of vibe. You guys went up to the Gold Coast and you got to show off your trophy. Yes. How did that feel, being in the stadium surrounded by packed out with people?
It was pretty extraordinary, because we'd gone up and we'd been asked to do like a quick Q&A at the VIP event. So that's what we were expecting we were doing. We did not know we were going on that field. We did not know we were meeting any players or meeting any of the staff there. And so then just as we walked in to do our little Q&A, which was an awesome experience in that environment, getting to meet pretty cool people, then like they just let us know, oh, hey, like, look, after you've done your talk, just come over quickly. We need to head down. And we're like, head down where? Head down onto the field. I'm like, what are you talking about? So that was a pretty cool surprise. That was a pretty awesome night.
Yes. And to finish us off with something that I was actually supposed to start with. So getting into a habit of inviting previous podcastees to ask a question for my next podcast. And so Lexi Seculus was my previous podcaster. Well, I think we have quite covered this quite well.
Okay.
So her question was, how do you overcome hurdles?
I've probably covered it a little bit.
Yeah. You won't be a ParaMatilda.
I think just making the most of what you have.
Make the most of what you have. And donate plasma.
And donate plasma, yes. Absolutely. That is what's got me here. And I still have my monthly infusions. So I've had probably over 60 infusions now of IVIG. I have that every month, which is made from plasma donations. And so it's still an ongoing need that I have and so many other people have. And so every donation means the absolute world.
Yeah. How much longer do you foresee that happening? Like, is it going to have to continue monthly or hopefully dropping off?
At the moment, it's still up in the air. So hard to say. Hopefully it won't go on forever, but at the moment it's definitely probably another year, I would say, at least, but it might over that time drop down in dose or drop down in frequency. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you still feel like you're on a high after each infusion?
Nah, I feel like I'm the same anymore.
Not as that first.
Not as, no. That one was quite extraordinary. This one is definitely, you can tell when I'm getting to the end of my month, I might be getting a bit more sick again, but often I'm now at a point where I can get through the month okay, but I always feel much more reassured when I've just had a top up. I feel a lot safer. And even just it helps with your immune system because some of the medications I'm on gets rid of my immune system, and so that gives me some back. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Think of Bec on the field when you're going to give your next donation. Bec, thank you so much for joining me. It's been
so
wonderful.
Much for having me.
What a wild ride Bec has been through. Always push for the answers and saddle that frustration. 2 little takeaways in particular. Don't treat people with visible disabilities any more differently. We can be afraid of saying the wrong thing, that we don't say anything at all, and that can be worse. Be open to learning. Be respectful. Ask what works for them. Make that connection. And don't forget to check your eligibility and make a booking to donate plasma. You can donate once every 2 weeks, and this could change someone's life more than you will ever know. That's a bit beautiful, isn't it? Bye for now. Off I go to donate some plasma myself with my housemate.